Victory had delivered independence, but it had not delivered clarity. The colonies were free from British rule, yet bound together by little more than shared sacrifice and fragile trust. The question loomed large: what kind of nation would America become? After the war, the United States operated under the Articles of Confederation, a framework designed to prevent tyranny by limiting central power. The federal government could not tax, regulate trade effectively, or enforce laws. Each state acted almost like a separate country. At first, this weakness felt like safety. Soon it felt like chaos. War debts piled up. Soldiers went unpaid. States argued over borders and commerce. Inflation spread. Foreign nations doubted America's survival. Then came a warning sign no one could ignore. In 1786, farmers in Massachusetts, many of them veterans, rose in rebellion against crushing taxes and debt. Led by Daniel Shays, they shut down courts and threatened the stability of the state. America's founding ideals inspired the world, but inside its borders, millions were excluded from them. This tension would define the nation's future. Despite its contradictions, America's revolution changed history. It proved a people could overthrow empire. It proved government could be built on ideas. It inspired revolutions in France, Latin America, and beyond. The experiment was dangerous, unfinished, ongoing. America was no longer an independence had given America a voice, but the nation was still learning how to speak with one. The revolution had broken chains to an empire, yet it had not resolved the deeper question beneath the victory: who was America for? As the 18th century faded into the 19th, the young republic turned its eyes westward. To many Americans, the frontier represented opportunity: land to own, farms to build, fortunes to chase. To the government, westward expansion promised power, security, and growth. To native nations, it meant something far darker: displacement. This complex journey of expansion revealed the deep contradictions at the heart of America's narrative. America's founding ideals inspired the world, but inside its borders, millions were excluded from them. This tension would define the nation's future. Despite its contradictions, America's revolution changed history. It proved that people could overthrow empire. It proved government could be built on ideas. It inspired revolutions in France, Latin America, and beyond. The experiment was dangerous, unfinished, ongoing. America was no longer independence had given America a voice, but the nation was still learning how to speak with one. The revolution had broken chains to an empire, yet it had not resolved the deeper question beneath the victory: who was America for? As the 18th century faded into the 19th, the young republic turned its eyes westward. To many Americans, the frontier represented opportunity: land to own, farms to build, fortunes to chase. To the government, westward expansion promised power, security, and growth. To native nations, it meant something far darker: displacement. Big states wanted representation based on population. Small states demanded equality. Slaveholding states wanted enslaved people counted for representation, but not for rights. Compromise followed compromise. Out of conflict emerged a new structure: three branches of government, checks and balances, shared power between states and federal authority. It was imperfect, but it was revolutionary. When the Constitution was presented to the public, it began with words never before used to found a nation: we the people, not a king, not a church, not a bloodline. The people themselves. Still, many feared the new government was too strong. They worried it could become the very tyranny they had just escaped. To secure ratification, a promise was made. In 1791, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution were adopted, known as the Bill of Rights. They guaranteed freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and protection from abuse of power. For the first time, individual liberty was written into the foundation of government. Each sentence can be long if the input requires it, but must not exceed 30 words. If a sentence is longer, split it into two or more natural sentences without altering the content. The land beyond the Appalachian Mountains was not empty. It was home to tribes with ancient histories, cultures, and claims older than the Republic itself. Yet treaties were made only to be broken. Promises were written only to be erased. Expansion became policy. By the early 1800s, a belief took hold that Americans were destined, by God, by fate, by history, to stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific. This idea, later known as manifest destiny, justified conquest as progress. Presidents spoke of liberty while authorizing removal. Under Andrew Jackson, the Indian Removal Act of 1830 was signed into law. It ordered native tribes east of the Mississippi River to relocate west. What followed was suffering on an unimaginable scale. Thousands of Cherokee Creek, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Seminole people were forced from their homes at gunpoint. The journey was fraught with peril, marked by hunger, disease, and loss, leaving an indelible mark on the survivors. Many families were torn apart, their stories fading into the shadows of history. Yet even in the face of adversity, a spirit of resilience began to emerge among the tribes. Each delayed the inevitable. The ideals of the revolution, equality, liberty, self-governance, were now turned inward, demanding accountability. Could a nation founded on freedom survive while denying it to millions? The answer would come in blood. By the mid-1800s, it was clear independence was not an end, it was a beginning. The revolution had removed a king. It had not removed injustice. Each generation inherited the founding promise and the responsibility to expand it. The struggle that began in 1776 continued in courtrooms, battlefields, churches, and streets. America's story was no longer about breaking free from Britain, but about defining freedom itself. America was never meant to be finished. It was an experiment, bold, flawed, evolving. Its colonization was marked by ambition and cruelty. Its independence was born from courage and contradiction. Its future would depend on whether its ideals could grow beyond their origins. The question remained, echoing across centuries. Could a nation founded imperfectly become more just? That still stands. Families walked hundreds of miles in brutal conditions. Hunger, disease, and exhaustion claimed lives along the way. This forced migration became known as the Trail of Tears. It stood as a grim reminder that the nation born in a struggle for freedom was capable of denying freedom to others. As America expanded west, another question followed it into every new territory. Would slavery be allowed? The invention of the cotton gin made slavery more profitable than ever. Southern states grew wealthy. Northern states industrialized. The nation's economy became deeply entangled with human bondage. Enslaved men, women, and children lived under constant violence, stripped of rights, families torn apart, futures stolen. Yet resistance never stopped. Some escaped through the Underground Railroad. Others rebelled. Many endured, holding on to hope in silence. Abolitionist voices grew louder, both black and white, challenging the nation to confront its hypocrisy. Compromises attempted to maintain balance between free states and slave states. Each was temporary. The revolution had ended, but its echo never faded. Independence was not a single moment frozen in 1776. It was a living force, shaping every struggle that followed. The ideas written in defiance of a king became weapons in the hands of those still denied freedom. America's story moved forward, carried by people who refused to let the promise die. Abolitionists looked to the Declaration and demanded that its words be taken seriously. If all were created equal, then slavery was a lie at the nation's heart. Enslaved people themselves became the most powerful voices of resistance through escape, rebellion, storytelling, and survival. Women who had organized boycotts, maintained households, and supported armies during the revolution now asked why liberty excluded them. They gathered, wrote, spoke, and organized. The same arguments once used against British rule were turned against injustice at home. Native nations, despite displacement and broken treaties, continued to assert sovereignty and survival, preserving culture against erasure. Again and again, Americans returned to the founding ideas, not to praise them, but to challenge the nation to live up to them. By the 1860s, the contradiction at America's core could no longer be contained. The Civil War was not only a fight over territory or politics, it was a battle over the meaning of independence itself. Could freedom exist alongside slavery? The war would answer that question, but at an enormous cost. When slavery was abolished, the nation took a step closer to its ideals, but equality remained unfinished, contested, and fragile. The revolution's work was still not complete. The American Revolution did something extraordinary. It proved that power could come from the people, not a throne. That idea crossed oceans. Movements for independence and democracy around the world studied America's founding, its courage, and its contradictions. Some were inspired. Some were warned. All learned that freedom was neither simple nor guaranteed. America became both a symbol and a cautionary tale. The legacy of America's founding continues to influence and challenge those who seek freedom and justice today. The founders themselves knew the experiment could fail. Benjamin Franklin once said that America was a republic if you can keep it. Independence required vigilance, participation, and moral courage. Freedom was not inherited automatically. It had to be defended, expanded, redefined. Each generation faced the same choice: preserve the ideals or betray them. The land that became the United States was shaped by colonization, by conquest, exploitation, and displacement. That history cannot be erased, but neither can the resistance, resilience, and hope that rose alongside it. America was built through struggle. Its independence was earned through sacrifice. Its future depends on honesty. America was not born perfect. It was born questioning. From native nations who survived invasion to enslaved people who demanded freedom to citizens who continue to push for justice. The true story of America is not just how it became independent, but how it continues to define what independence means. The revolution lit the fire. The rest of history is the flame.